Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for July the 26th, 2021 from Kansas City, Missouri. Let's go ahead and get right to this recap. Shout out to the chat room for tuning in live. I appreciate it, and thank you to everybody watching this on demand as well. We kicked off Raw with a recap of last week. Nikki ASH winning the Raw Women's Championship, cashing in Money in the Bank. She came down to the ring. She cut a promo. She talked about how excited she was to be back in front of the fans. The crowd chanted for her, chanted, "You deserve it." She said she learned how to handle failure, and she said all it takes is believing in yourself. Charlotte, of course, interrupted. I think pretty much everybody on the face of the earth knew that Charlotte was going to interrupt this promo. Said that Nikki's fairy tale doesn't have a happy ending. Crowd chanted, "You suck." And then she responded by saying, "Don't make me do the suck it sign to all of you." And then Charlotte actually, for a moment, broke character and started laughing just at the absurdity of the whole thing. Charlotte said that Nikki stole her title. She wants her rematch at SummerSlam. And then she started venting at the fans, saying that they are jealous of her. Rhea Ripley interrupted, and the crowd was chanting for Rhea. And Rhea said that it's hard to be jealous of somebody that held the title for a day. And brought up how last week in their match, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte got herself DQ'd and said it should be her versus Nikki for the championship. Charlotte and Rhea argued back and forth. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville arrived and said that it would be a triple threat match at SummerSlam. Charlotte was not happy about this. She wanted a match with Nikki on the show in the main event. Nikki accepted, and then Charlotte took a cheap shot at Rhea Ripley, and Nikki knocked Charlotte out of the ring, and that was our first segment, which went pretty long. It went about 20 minutes, and let me just say this. If you love the Nikki ASH character, check out this Raw episode because she was featured very heavily on this show. If you're not a fan of the character, I would say skip this Raw at all costs. Walter Cruz with the first $5 super chat of the evening says, "I don't like the Nikki character, but at least the women are being a focus point. Maybe Becky will return at the end of the SummerSlam match." Thank you again for that, Walter. Colin Andrews says, "This promo from ASH bored me off my ASS." And Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, "Why doesn't Becky have a match for SummerSlam?" Don't know, Psycho Jet Black. We might see her next week. Next week, Raw is in Chicago, which I feel is going to be a very significant show. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Dr. NXT Scorpio with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, "Every time somebody cuts a promo and blames the fans for whatever reasons, I feel like it's Vince speaking through the said wrestler." Yeah, you might be right on that one, Dr. NXT Scorpio. We kicked off our in-ring action with Damian Priest versus Sheamus and what they're calling now a contenders match. Basically knocking off AEW with the eliminator matches, basically a non-title match where the potential challenger has a chance to get a title match by beating the champion, which WWE has been doing forever, and they're just now calling it a contenders match. Damian Priest cut a little promo before the match, said Sheamus is a bully, deserves to get his ass kicked. Sheamus has this entrance now where he stands up on the ropes and flashes his championship with his jacket. When you look at him from the other side of the ring with his back turned, it looks like he's flashing the crowd. And it was a pretty standard match. Priest ended up kicking off Sheamus's mask, and Priest caught Sheamus, who was on the top, and he hit him with a super choke slam, but Sheamus kicked out of that. Sheamus came back with a knee to the face. Priest barely kicked out of it, like barely, 2 9/10. And then Priest came back from that, hit the Reckoning to pick up the win. And Sheamus was telling the referee that his nose was re-broken. And I'm sure that Sheamus will get his rematch next week, or Priest will get a title match, whatever. Maybe they'll do another contenders match next week, and then Priest beats him again and then gets the title match. Who knows at this point? We had a tag team rematch. Even though they lost at the pay-per-view, the Viking Raiders got another tag team title opportunity against AJ Styles and Omos. And Kurapika07 says they changed Priest's finisher name. I guess it's called The Reckoning now, which is better than Hit the Lights. I was not a fan of Hit the Lights, as you guys know, because I always had to say Damian Priest hit the lights. I'd rather just say he hit the Reckoning to win the match. So I'm happy with Reckoning being the name of his finisher. So anyways, tag team titles match. Viking Raiders had a strategy, try to take out AJ right away. They knocked Omos off the apron, and they hit the Viking experience on AJ, but Omos was able to pull out Eric. Ivar tried to grab Omos's foot as a distraction, but that did not work. And AJ was eventually able to tag out to Omos. Omos hit the tree slam to Eric, and then Styles tagged back in, hit the springboard 450, and picked up the win. So AJ and Omos beat them again, and I guess that's the end of the feud, maybe. Don't know. Would not shock me if they wrestle again. Although it does really seem like we're going in a different direction, and we'll get to that in a few minutes here. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat says, isn't Reckoning a member of Retribution? Was a member of Retribution about 6 months ago, but the question is, will the former Reckoning ever do something again on WWE television? That remains to be seen. We had a recap of the 34 steel chair shots from Drew McIntyre to Shanky on last week's Raw, including 34 camera cuts, because, you know, that makes it look so much more impressive. We had Drew McIntyre versus Veer, and Jinder Mahal cut a promo before the match, said he's disgusted with Drew McIntyre. He gave Drew the opportunity to apologize, and Jinder had an attorney with him, threatened to sue Drew if Drew did not apologize. And Drew responded by talking on the mic and said that he's not going to apologize. And he asked the fans if he should beat Veer within an inch of his life. Crowd cheered, of course. And he had a chant for Jinder that he wanted everybody to say, Drew is going to kill you. Of course, that's the old Samoa Joe chant. So little gimmick infringement from Drew McIntyre. We had our match, but you know what? It's better than a Drew McIntyre story. I'll say that much. Interesting finish here. So Jinder Mahal had a steel chair. He distracted Drew during the match, and then Jinder brought the chair into the ring, just slid it in. Veer grabbed it, but then Drew hit Veer with the Claymore and kicked the chair into Veer's face. And this caused a disqualification. Your winner by disqualification is Drew McIntyre. He kicked the chair into a guy's face, which actually is normally not a DQ, because you actually have to grab the item and use it to be DQ'd. If you just kick an item into somebody's face, historically it's not a DQ. But in this case, it was a DQ. So Veer got DQ'd by getting kicked in the face with a chair. I mean, you're normally not DQ'd for picking up a weapon. If you use the weapon, you get DQ'd. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was absurd. So yeah, they're just changing the rules whenever they feel like it, basically. Like this was ridiculous. And after the match, Drew attacked the lawyer. flipped him off before delivering the Claymore. So WWE pushing the envelope a little bit. We got Bobby Lashley with the S-bomb. We got Drew McIntyre and Charlotte doing middle fingers. We got Roman Reigns talking about missionary position. A little bit of an edge in WWE right now. Hero Villain 5 says he thinks that's the first time that happened, the DQ finished the way it went down. I think so too. I cannot recall a time where a guy got DQ'd by having an object kicked into his face. I think that was definitely a first. We had Eva Marie and Doudrop versus Natalya and Tamina in another contenders match. And during this, Eva Marie did practically nothing as usual. She would start the match, quickly tag out. Natalya possibly got hurt in this match. She actually had to be carried out to the back after the match was over. We're waiting some kind of update on that with her. Hopefully she's okay. Tamina did the brunt of the work after this. She tried to get Doudrop in the Samoan drop, but she was not able to do it. Doudrop hit the crossbody, tagged in Eva. Eva went for the pin, but Tamina kicked out. And then we had an interruption from Lily. There was a little video package of Lily, and I guess Lily is creating the Lily Lucian. Yeah. And Tamina pinned Eva Marie, and I really do not care about any of this whatsoever. I thought Lily being in timeout meant they were dropping the gimmick, but apparently not. And Darren says, finally, Eva eats the pinfall. Well, I mean, it doesn't even matter at this point. Like, who cares? We had Keith Lee versus Karrion Kross. That's right. Two guys that had pretty significant losses last week facing each other in a match. Not sure I would have booked this because both guys really did not need to be losing again. I will say this. The match was pretty solid. Maybe the best match on Raw. Lee got the early upper hand, but then they fought on the outside and Kross suplexed Lee on the outside to gain the advantage. He put on the standing Kross jacket in the ring, but Lee was able to power out of it. Lee went for the spirit bomb, but then Kross countered with another Saito suplex, and then he hit that running forearm to the back, put on the Kross jacket, and Lee eventually tapped out. So another loss for Keith Lee. I really don't understand what's going to happen with Keith Lee. At least they rehabbed Karrion Kross a little bit, but there was no other guy that they could have fed to Kross other than Keith Lee. And originally it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy and Karrion Kross in a rematch, and I'm guessing Kross would have got his win back. But Jeff Hardy reportedly tested positive for COVID-19 and was not on this show. And interestingly enough, last week we saw Jeff Hardy high-fiving the fans and everything, and then he gets COVID. So I was wondering if WWE was going to ban wrestlers high-fiving the fans, but they did not. The fans were definitely able to slap hands with the wrestlers. Numerous wrestlers were slapping hands on this show. So maybe WWE thinks Jeff got COVID a different way. Who knows? We really don't know anything about Jeff's situation other than it was announced by a music venue that he tested positive, and he was obviously not on this show. And yes, TJS, I did see Lee's tweet. Apparently, Lee is going to explain his absence in the next week or two. He will give a statement about why he was gone. And maybe that will answer some questions. Maybe there's a reason he's done 2 jobs in a row now since coming back. Walter Cruz with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, is Lily about to come to life? God, I hope not. I have no idea where this is going, and I really don't care, like I said. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, why is Keith Lee being vague and cryptic on Twitter? Apparently we'll find out soon. I don't know why, but he said he's going to give us answers, and I guess we will get answers in the near future. Gary Joe says, here's the plot twist. The thing that can save Lee is a heel turn. Yeah, you might be right on that. Maybe he just gets so frustrated he snaps and goes heel. I mean, I suppose that's a way you can rehab him at some point. We had another recap because one wasn't enough. We had another recap of Nikki ASH. And interesting that WWE likes to shorten names, but they're giving her this long name, Nikki ASH, instead of just calling her Nikki. I don't know. Anyways, there was another recap of that from last week. And then Rhea Ripley confronted Nikki ASH backstage. And Rhea said she respects Nikki's confidence and hopes that Nikki gives Charlotte hell in the main event. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat says, why is Keith Lee losing? Did he make Mr. McMahon mad? Again, Keith Lee is going to give us a statement sometime within the next week or two, and maybe we'll have our answers as to what's going on here, and all of this will make sense. Because right now it doesn't, and yeah, he's been very cryptic with his messages, and up to this point, nobody really knows what's going on, other than he wasn't cleared, so must have been something related to his health, and not a creative issue. We had Mace and T-Bar appearing for the first time since the return of fans up against Ali and Mansoor. And I actually liked this match. I like this storyline they're doing with Ali and Mansoor. Basically, Mansoor is a guy with a lot of potential, but he needs to smarten up. And he's a rookie. And Ali's trying to smarten him up. And it's funny because Mansoor was trying to slap hands with the fans, and Ali was getting him to not do that and focus on the match. Maybe he just didn't want Mansoor getting COVID. T-Bar got the upper hand right away. He had this really cool looking kick, and Ali took this great bump. He just pretty much got turned inside out. And they worked over Ali for a while. Mansoor eventually tagged in, and Ali saved Mansoor more than once. Saved Mansoor and spiked T-Bar with a DDT on the outside of the ring. And then Mansoor countered Mace's chokeslam into a roll-up and scored the 1-2-3 victory. And after the match, Mace and T-Bar were going to attack Mansoor, but Ali pulled him out of the ring to safety. Pretty good match here. I like the storyline so far. So thumbs up for this one. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, just call her Nikki Cross. Ash is a crap name. Just call her Nikki Cross. Ash is a crap name. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Nikki Ash stuff, but we'll talk more about that at the end. Gary Joe has a prediction. He thinks Mansoor and Ali will be the tag team champions at Crown Jewel in October. So if you guys have been keeping up to date with NoDQ.com, apparently we're going to have another Saudi Arabia show. And it's been rumored that one would happen before the end of 2021. And it looks like October is the target date, late October, for this Crown Jewel or whatever they're going to call it event in Saudi Arabia. We had MVP and Bobby Lashley come to the ring, the WWE champion Bobby Lashley, to respond to Goldberg's challenge. MVP asked people to their feet for the champ, said that Goldberg was disrespectful, and Lashley responded by saying he's not even going to dignify Goldberg's challenge with a response. He said he's not going to be disrespected by anybody. This led to Cedric Alexander appearing and saying that he wants a match against the champ. Shelton Benjamin arrived, said he wants a shot at the champ. He wants to give Lashley a real challenge. MVP was like, no, neither of you are getting a match. And Lashley's like, he'll take on both of them. So that's what happened. We had a 2-on-1 handicap match. Lashley pretty much dominated it, although Shelton and Cedric did get one pinfall attempt and Lashley easily kicked out. Lashley wiped out Shelton with a crazy ass spear. and then hit the jackhammer to mock Goldberg on Shelton. Then he hit the Dominator on Cedric on top of Shelton, and then he pulled a Roman Reigns. He stacked him and pinned him both at the same time to pick up the win. Maybe a little tease for the future, maybe Survivor Series. And this was fine. I mean, people are like Shelton and Cedric, they're buried. I would have liked to have seen a Hurt Business reunion. I mean, I think that would have been a better idea, but at least this got over Lashley as a monster, and he is the WWE champion. Now, the question is this all leading to Goldberg beating Lashley for the title? And that will not make people happy. But for this night, they made Lashley look like a complete monster. And that's what you want to do with your WWE champion. And let's face it, Shelton and Cedric, they're pretty much just there to enhance talent. It is what it is. We had AJ and Omos meeting with Miz and Morrison backstage, and AJ had a little proposition for them. We had Riddle versus John Morrison in a one-on-one match. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, do casuals really want Goldberg to win the title? Apparently so. I mean, I guess that's why WWE keeps bringing Goldberg back, because the casual fans love the guy and they chant Goldberg in the arenas. We had a fun moment in this match. Actually, a couple of funny moments. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm starting to like the drip stick. I was really hating it at first, but we had Byron Saxton getting sprayed with the drip stick, which I definitely enjoyed. And then Riddle kicked Miz out of the wheelchair, which was another fun moment. Both of these moments, Miz was pretty entertaining on this show. I'll give him that. We then had AJ and Omos show up, and this was all part of the master plan. Omos broke the scooter. Riddle was very upset. He was heartbroken, and Morrison took advantage of the distraction. And normally I would say stupid babyface, but we all know Riddle loves his scooter, and I don't blame him for being heartbroken over it. And he got distracted. All right, I'll give him a pass on this one. That was a nice scooter. I'd be sad too. And Morrison hit the Starship Pain, picked up the win. And then after the match, Styles continued to beat down Riddle and laid him out with a Styles Clash. The fans in Missouri, near Randy Orton's, not too far from St. Louis. It's Kansas City, so it's a little bit of a distance, but same state. Crowd was chanting for Randy Orton, but no Viper. Randy Orton is being advertised for next week. We'll see if he shows up on next week's show, which again is in Chicago. Roy sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Roy. I appreciate it. Says, did not watch Raw, but did the crowd react to the drip stick? Yeah, they got a kick out of it, and they liked Miz getting kicked out of the wheelchair. And Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat says, AJ and Omos versus Randy Orton and Riddle at SummerSlam. That's what I'm thinking at this point, and I'm suspecting that we will see Randy Orton on next week's show. He is being advertised, and it is in Chicago. Like I said earlier, next week is looking to be a pretty big show in Chicago. I feel like they're gonna do some big moments on that show. We had R-Truth versus Reginald in a 24/7 title match. Yes, this was the third hour of Raw. But I will say this was entertaining than most 24/7 title segments. Reginald did this cool leap into the ring, with the flippy floppy stuff that he does. And R-Truth had a microphone, attached to him, so he was talking during the match, and it was pretty funny. Reginald got the best of him though, pinned him, and then afterwards the catering crew ran down, and Reginald did like this dive back out of the ring to escape them, which looked pretty cool. And I agree with Colin. Truth should be mic'd up for every match. Like, it was, I'll give it credit. It was entertaining than most of the 24/7 title segments. Anthony is like, CM Punk returns to Raw next week. Don't think that's going to happen. But Jeremy says get ready for the CM Punk chants. That might happen on next week's show. Marcus says Reginald does have some moves. Indeed, he does. We had a main event, Nikki ASH, the Raw Women's Champion, versus Charlotte. And I thought maybe they were going to have Becky Lynch show up at the end. Like Charlotte would beat down Nikki and Becky would make her big return. But no Becky on this show. Pretty standard match. And Nikki went for a crossbody, but Charlotte reversed it, got the pinfall victory. And then afterwards, Charlotte was interviewed and said nobody is in her league. Nikki grabbed the mic and said, on this night, she was almost a superhero. She showed that she could almost win. And maybe she showed everybody she could almost draw ratings. I guess we'll see what the numbers are for Raw, but I think they might be back down this week, even with fans. And this was not a great crowd. They were okay. They reacted to some things, but it was not a very energetic crowd compared to the shows last week in Texas. And once again, we have the champion, the brand new champion, losing in her first match as champion. Like, why? Why does WWE always do this? And Charlotte already got her match. They already announced it for SummerSlam, so you don't even need to have Charlotte beat the champion to get a title match. Like, it was totally pointless. And then afterwards, Nikki challenged Charlotte to a rematch because, of course, it's WWE. You always do rematches. And Charlotte agreed. She laid out Nikki with another big boot. And yeah, we're getting a rematch for next week. That's the big cliffhanger for next week's Monday Night Raw. We're going to have a rematch. Charlotte versus Nikki ASH in Chicago. I'm surprised they didn't have Becky return on this show. Although maybe they figured, you know what? This is Kansas City. This isn't Chicago. Let's save it for Chicago. Randy Orton, probably the same thing. Although I would do one week and then do the second week instead of doing them both on the same week. But next week's show, I think, is going to be a big deal. This week's Raw was kind of boring. It had its moments. I liked the stuff with The Miz. I liked the Ali and Mansoor tag match. Dr. NXT Scorpio with a $5 super chat says, what's worse, watching Raw or Charlotte Flair main eventing and closing Raw? LOL. I would say just watching Raw because 3 hours is a lot to sit through. Like, I'd be fine with a 2 hour and 30-minute show that was really good. And if the main event was boring, then all right, so be it. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, I miss local jobbers losing to superstars. As do I. I think it's an easy way to get people over without having to water down the guys that you could potentially be pushing as stars. So overall, I give Raw a C. It was okay, but kind of boring. Had some good moments. Crowd was okay. It was just an okay show. No John Cena on this show, which I could have sworn they advertised him for Raw. Maybe he did a dark match. Maybe somebody can check on Twitter and see if somebody posted anything. But I feel like Cena was in a dark match. But yeah, he did not appear on Raw. And I thought he was advertised for Raw. Whatever. Colin gives it a C. Hero Villain 5 with a C-. Dr. NXT Scorpio and Mr. Heavy Metal Hero Dude also give it a C-. Gamazon 100 with a C-. CC Drink and Michael Wayne give it a C. And Mr. Anderson gives it an F. TJS gives it a D+. And Hamp with an F. if you didn't watch Raw, you could probably skip the show or just watch a couple of the YouTube clips. I'd say watch the Riddle and Morrison match and Ali and Mansoor's match against Mace and T-Bar. Everything else you could probably skip. And that was Raw. I don't think this Nikki Ash thing is working. I mean, maybe there's some young kids that like the gimmick, but yeah, it's pretty lame. At least for us folk over 30, I don't think it's going to make a connection with that audience. We'll see what they do. Maybe they turn Nikki heel at some point. I don't know. But it's pretty tough to watch this Nikki Ash stuff. It's just not working for me. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching tonight. I really do appreciate your viewership and support. Next week, Chicago, that's going to be an interesting show. I'm looking forward to that one, and I do think we're going to get some big angles on next week's show to set up SummerSlam, and I suspect the big players will be there. Cena will actually be on the TV show. Randy Orton, I suspect, will return. Maybe Becky Lynch. It should be a loaded show next week, but they sure didn't do much to get you excited for next week, I will say that much. Anyways, guys, take care. Enjoy your week, and I will see you all for the AEW Dynamite review on Wednesday night. Take care. Peace out.